Welcome to the Kiwi Mana Bay.
Welcome to the Beekeepers Q&A. This is the show on Blab where we attempt to answer your burning questions
In your beekeeping adventures, and we are from the hills of West Auckland and on the wild west coast in New Zealand, and in the North Island, because we've got a few islands as part of our country. So welcome, and yeah, it's a beautiful morning here, and
We're drinking coffee.
And look at Gary's cool mug. Kiwi guy, turn it a bit.
Yeah.
It's
anyway,
gorgeous. So
hand painted.
hand painted and lovely cups to drink out of. So, and I've got my one. Totally non-related to beekeeping.
Well, it's got a tree on it.
It's a Formian flax, our New Zealand native flax.
I've seen bees on those.
Yeah, at the moment there's not, the flowers have all finished. So yeah, welcome.
Welcome, and we've got some questions that got emailed in over the week, and we'll talk about those. But discussions, we got some from one of our best fans. We got some honey yesterday.
Yes,
and do we want to show the label?
As I understand, it's for the CEO of Kiwi Mana.
So that's you.
Yes, that's right. As long as we understand that.
I thought you were the queen bee.
Oh, yeah, a bit of that.
Oh, okay, awesome. And this week we released, I wouldn't put it there, it'll fall off. This week we released a podcast with Victor Corker from Australia.
Croker.
Yeah, Croker.
Yeah, just a fine example of accents and how we can make a little mistake. So we apologise for that, Victor. But
we
now.
accidentally got his name wrong. Anyway, and it's been very hot in New Zealand this week. It's been up to like 40-odd degrees, hasn't it? It's been crazy.
It's been, in the April, it's been absolutely awesome.
Hot.
The girls are loving it. There's so much nectar still coming in, and we had a bit of rain, so there was an extra nectar flow on, and the girls are still collecting pollen, and yeah, they're still really busy. And we had a few days of rain, and that was a bit of a downer for the girls. They were inside a bit, so the honey stores are building up, so we're happy about that, and it means that they'll have some good winter feed.
Apabsolutely. And if you've got any questions, just type in /Q in the chat, or click on open seat, or call in. Apparently it's called.
Be brave. Come on, you Kiwis. I know you can do it. Come out of the little,
the woodwork.
Oh, the woodwork, yeah. Come through the forest and come to the beach and come on the sand of the shore and join us and talk.
Absolutely. Hopefully. Okay, well, we've got some people watching. That's good. So, first question is... morning, Stephanie. How are you? Hope you're all right. We're wondering if you can hear us. Hopefully you can. Anyway, this week, first question we've got, how to prepare a beehive for winter in New Zealand. And it's winter coming up in a few months, eh? So people are obviously getting prepared. And we've got an article about that, haven't we? And we've got a 5-step process called assess. Is that right?
No, there's an art too.
Oh, that's right. There's an art.
And we put an article together, and the keywords are art, and have a look through that. And just be careful at the moment, guys, because it is the season here is, particularly in Auckland, is still going on quite strongly, that you don't close it down too soon, because you might have an absconding queen. But you really need to, for what we can see, what's going on at the moment is there's still a huge nectar flow. So you have to manage those nectar frames so that there's room for the queen still to lay, because she will start preparing her winter bees as such. So once that temperature drops, whatever area you're in, you need to be aware of that, and then you start to look at wintering down your hive. So be very careful not to do it too soon while there's still a nectar flow. So check your frames for nectar. If there's any nectar in the frames that are brood and it's within the brood area, then you need to know that your bees need more room for honey collection.
Okay. Right. Well, so we can talk about the steps of assessing for winter. This is probably, when would you start doing this in New Zealand in winter?
Well, the winter is autumn. I would prepare for wintering down the hive. What does the method say? It says here winter actually officially starts on the 1st of June. So you'd probably be preparing through the middle of autumn, thereabouts.
Yeah.
So at the moment, you would be checking for nectar flow. You'll be making sure there's enough room for her, the queen, to lay. If there's nectar in amongst them, in amongst the brood, then deal with that. But this wintering down method, we would probably start doing it. See, I'm sort of preparing for it now, if you know what I mean. So I'm still monitoring what's in the hive and taking off any honey that I might want to store for each girl's colony. And so I would say for us around May, before winter starts on the 1st of June. So about 6 weeks beforehand.
Okay, and the basic steps are you assess your hive, you record what you've got in your hive, and we've got a handy guide there on this article we wrote about it, and then you rearrange the frames. So you've got all your brood together, you got your pollen on the outside, and you've got your honey around the outside of that. And we always leave a box of honey on top, don't we, Margaret?
Yep.
Because and then we reduce the boxes, so you want to get rid of all the empty frames. And then the fourth thing, 4.1, reduce the entrance. You want to reduce your entrance so that the bees don't have any issues with wasps or other robbing bees. And I think later on we've got a question about how to reduce the entrance, and we've got some show and tell, haven't we? Or did we find one? Yep. And the fifth thing is you need to do is treat them for varroa. If you're a person that treats their beehive, you need to check the mite count and you need to treat for winter. So you really ideally want to go into winter with very low mite counts and healthy bees. So they've got a better chance of getting through the winter. And we'll have a link in the show notes. But if you Google how to prepare a beehive for winter in New Zealand on Google, you will come across our article.
And no, that's not Margaret in the picture, not even when I was younger.
No, that's a clip art picture. And so if you've got any questions about that, drop us a line.
Yeah, so just to, I mean, my view is that you need to understand where your colony is at in your area. So if you read the article, keep it in mind. At the moment, where we are in West Auckland in New Zealand, we still have a strong honey flow and the weather is very high. So there's going to be mites in the hive. We've had some colonies which have got, hardly any that you can even, the hives are just clean. So that's something you should keep an eye on. But we usually treat on the 1st of February and do 4 weeks over that time. And I know that there was some comments about us treating hives, but I mean, we use organic and I'm not brave enough at this point not to treat. So I think that we're trying to help the girls rather than, the colonies that are working well seem to be managing with the varroa. I don't over-treat them. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And the next question, we'll have a little musical interlude.
And my cup of tea.
Next question we had is, how do you seal off a beehive entrance? For I guess for what this is probably, it's pretty vague what it says, but maybe for moving beehives or for winter. And over this week we moved a beehive, didn't we, all the way to Epsom?
Yeah, we moved it into an urban environment, and they were a colony that had a queen, and she got out once when I was when we had inspected. She was laying really well. Oh my God, what's that?
That's the bees they got out.
Yeah, so we moved this colony, and the queen had been outside, and the bees, I couldn't find her, and she had been laying so well. It was just my final check before taking her away to her new house. And what happened was that she was outside and she was under the mesh board, and there was I went through the whole hive and couldn't see eggs. There was larvae there. There was cat brood. So the colony was still, they're still very strong, huge colony. And then right at the bottom, there's this cluster on the mesh board. And what happened is that she was underneath the mesh board. I got the bees out the way, and then I turned the mesh board upside down, and there she was. But I put her back into the hive. They might have got rid of her. I'm not sure what they've done. And there's a new queen in there that hasn't been fully mated. So that was very sad, because she was an awesome queen and well mated.
Yeah.
So we're just waiting a couple of weeks to see what happens. And then if that doesn't work, we'll see what goes from there.
And it was amusing going through moving that beehive, because you had to go through a whole lot of roadworks in the middle of the night, and the road workers thought it was amusing. We were wearing our bee suits.
Yeah.
Driving the car.
So true. But we had a difficulty last week with it, because we put fresh boxes on it, because it's a new beginner's kit. So we had all the boxes all nicely fresh, and we had oiled them with boiled linseed oil just on the outside. And so when we were getting it ready, we put the robbing screen on, which we'll talk about in a minute. And Gary knocked the boxes.
I did.
So the bees were not happy.
They weren't happy?
Not happy at all. So we had to actually leave it. And I was cursing and swearing, because I'd done so much preparation. And anyway, that's the way things sometimes go.
And the people that lived there where we were picking up the hive from were ringing up noise control, complaining about the swearing.
That's not true. But I did apologise the next morning to say, sorry about the disturbance out in the apiary.
Exactly. So, and you've got a robbing screen there. This is what we use to move the bees.
Yeah. Can I just say
Yep.
that there are, in normal understanding of reducing an entrance, there are lots of different methods. Now, reducing an entrance still means that if you have a robber or a wasp, they can still get straight into the hive. So a lot of entrance reducers are like, some people put a bit of wood across and then just have a small gap for the bees to get in. So the theory is that it's not as wide a space, so that the guard bees can manage it better as the population declines. And when this time of the year, the wasps are definitely building up again. So
they are. I've seen them coming around now.
Absolutely.
And for our overseas people, wasps are yellow jackets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in New Zealand, they don't need to wear their jacket.
It's too hot.
It's too hot.
Yeah.
So anyway, so there's the entrance reduction, which can be a bit of wood, or some people have a metal strip with holes in it, and other people have one that they can sort of change it on and off. But my view is that the entrance reduction is one method, but a robbing screen is another method. And if you have a look, this one is designed with an insect mesh, and it has some hooks on the side. I hope you can see that, guys. And then you've got your bungee cord. I've got one that's 90 centimeters, and you hook it into the hooks.
Eyelets, yep.
And then you wrap it around and then connect the other side.
And this goes in front of the hive, so the hive would be like here, guys. So yeah.
Yeah, and there's two ways to do it. This is when we moved the hive the other night, we had a robbing screen on the front, which we put there to keep the bees inside, but they wouldn't be too hot because of the move. And you know that when they're traveling, they do still do a lot of vibrating. So we've got a very narrow, sorry, Gary.
Yeah, poke him in the face. Oh.
So we've got a very narrow on this side. Okay, if you can see that. And then on this side, sorry, Gary.
Stop hitting the mic.
On this side is a lot wider.
Yeah.
So when you first put it on, put the wider part on.
And the bees can go in that little hole.
Yeah. So it's really just a matter of turning it if you want to change the entry point to a wider or narrow part. Once we get to probably around May, maybe a bit earlier, we would have it on the very narrow one. We would start doing that as part of our wintering down and keeping that very narrow.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is an insect mesh. This is the aluminium one.
And why do wasps? How come wasps can't work it out? Do you know why? Why? What do? They go for what?
Gary did some research and he created this product, and I just build it now. So just know that I build those with my own two hands for you, and they're
very good too, Margaret.
They sell very quickly, but the whole idea of this system is that it becomes like, you know how you have a fenced front yard or backyard? It's the same sort of scenario. And the difference between an entrance reduction and a robbing screen means that the girls can still go out to the front of the hive, and it's like they've got this fenced area that they can gather in the front of the hive, and they're not vulnerable to being attacked. And on the inside of the screen, which goes against the side of the hive box, they will propolize inside the robbing screen. Okay.
They will, yep.
So that means it becomes centered with the colony's scent. So if a wasp gets in, and I was talking to a beginner the other day, that they saw the wasp come in and then it got attacked right out. So the idea is that the wasp may well get in, but they will get dealt to by the guard bees. So it's like a front yard. They propolize it and it gives them a space. It means that you can close it off if you're going to transport colonies anywhere.
Yeah.
You just put it on about 4 days before so they orientate and get used to it. Do the narrow one, and the wider one is during those peak times of bee population.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely. And what you do is, the reason why it works is because the entrance, or the normal entrance, is at the bottom here, and the wasps will try and hit this. They'll keep hitting this because they keep going for that, and they can't work out to go here. Yeah. So it reduces the amount of robbing wasps or other bees.
Yeah, they can the wasps will come up to it and keep hitting it because they'll see that there's, excuse me, that there's bees there, and they can smell the scent of the honey because at the moment, gosh, the honey smell out there is just awesome with the humidity. So in really, really peak periods, I would close it off at night when the wasps are around, and I would open it again in the morning a bit later on. And then what it means is that if there are any, because when the girls are in at night, they generally are more vulnerable in the early evenings and early mornings because that's when the wasps are trolling and trying to get in. And
yeah, fly a lot later than bees, eh? They keep going.
Yeah, and that's when you get really vulnerable because I have people saying, oh, I haven't seen any wasps, and then their hives, and I've seen wasps just go straight in. And they said, oh, I've reduced the entrance. Well, if the wasp is there, that the minute they're in the colony, that there you've got trouble. So a robbing screen is like a second defense for the girls, and you have to leave it on. You know, I would leave it on all year round now. And if it's very high population, I just lift it up off the baseboard about 8 millimeters so bees can still get in underneath.
Yeah.
But there's a bit more room for the population. So, and then you can just simply just push it back down again when it gets more vulnerable.
Very good. That's awesome.
So what do you think about entrance reduction?
I think the whole theory is that you're making the hole smaller so that the bees that are in the hive can defend a smaller space. If you have a huge entrance, they can't defend it. And so if the hive is very, very strong, you will they'll probably be okay to defend a big area, but if they're not, they won't. Because like you look at the nature, a lot of bee hives, the bee colonies in nature have a very small hole, you know, like this big. And I think what the problem is in New Zealand is that the bees' production slows down. They start reducing their population, and the wasps start increasing. There's a period at the end of the season where there's like a change of the balance. So the wasps start building up, and the bees reduce, and that's when you get the problem with hives getting lost by attacks by yellow jackets or German or common wasps.
Yeah, and this is the time of year which is coming up to February, March, April. Those are the months where the wasps are really building up. They'll start producing some queens.
Yeah. And
then the queens will go out and they'll start hibernating over winter. And then once, it comes into spring, they'll start setting up colonies.
Absolutely. And welcome to the Q&A, Ralph. He's just joined us.
Hi, Ralph. Welcome.
And a good test you can do if you want to see if you've got yellow jackets or wasps in your area is get a can at this time of the year, the protein. Yep. Hi, Ralph. And at this time of the year, you can get a protein-based cat food like a salmon or salmon. The salmon one's the best. Put it on a little plate or a thing out in the open, not near apiary, and just leave it for an hour. Make sure your cats don't eat it. Leave it for an hour. Come back and then count how many wasps are on it. If there's no wasps on it, you're probably okay. But if it's covered in wasps, you probably think, well, that's a problem. Anyway, well, if anyone's got a question, type /Q or click in open seat or call in. If anybody wants to join us, you can join us. Right.
So there's two methods for entrance reduction. There's a robbing screen and reducing the entrance. So we have just this, to make it clear that entrance reduction can be both of those things, but they have different methods, and the reasons for that are to protect the colony from the immediate entrance into the colony.
Absolutely. And we'll move on if there's no questions, we'll move on to the next question we got from email, and this one is: how long do you paraffin dip bee boxes? Now, paraffin.
What is that?
Paraffin wax is a petroleum-based wax, which is often used for making cheap candles. You always use beeswax for candles, guys. It's much better. Anyway, it's a paraffin or a petroleum-based product. And in New Zealand, what often happens is commercial guys have a big vat, and they boil up the paraffin wax, and they dip boxes in there or hiveware for about 7 minutes, and it actually absorbs into the wood, and it helps preserve them. And I actually met a commercial guy on one of our previous podcasts called Paul Berry, and what he does, he puts his boxes in for about 7 minutes, takes them out, and then he paints them straight away, and then it makes them really, really ultra preserved. So that's a method you can use. Just be very careful, because paraffin wax is flammable, and we also know another person that their garage burnt down because of a paraffin wax dipper. So you've got to be very, very careful that you don't leave it going or any kind of issues. Probably a better idea to have it outside, away from your house or garage.
Okay, well, with this paraffin wax situation, it's about the heat exchange, and it's used in AFB management. In New Zealand, we don't use antibiotics. We use DEF.
Yes.
So basically, if your colony has AFB in New Zealand, the general way is to put petrol through the entrance into the hive or from the top, close up the whole colony, and then burn.
Yeah, and
everything.
AFB for non-beekeepers, I think saying is from Missouri, in the USA, and we'll talk a bit about your question soon, Ralph.
Yeah, we've got your question there.
And AFB is called American foul brood, which is a disease, a virus, and it actually affects the brood of the bees. In New Zealand, the only treatment we use is we actually burn the hives.
It's a government requirement, part of their pest management strategy, and you have to notify the authorities if you get AFB. And there's some other things that occur as well. So selling bees if you've had AFB, there's some restrictions on that. But you can go to the website. It's afb.org.nza.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And have a look there. There's a lot of information about AFB, what it looks like. There's some photos, the whole thing. Very helpful website, and we recommend after you've done beekeeping for about a year or so, just go through a full season, learn what's normal in your hive, and then go and get a DECA certification, which is Disease Elimination Conformity Agreement, and that will help you with managing your hives better. But do it after you've learnt a lot more about your colonies, what the good cell health looks like, because then when you see something that's not normal, it will be a lot clearer to you. So, yeah, that's our recommendation.
Absolutely. And for AFB to paraffin dip a box, you have to do it for 10 minutes at a minimum temperature of 150 to 160 degrees Celsius. And that has been recognised as killing the AFB virus inside the woodware. And welcome to Brian and Jean. Thank you for joining for the Beekeepers Q&A. Are you guys beekeepers? Top type of question. And I've got a question here from Ralph. I live in Missouri. How do I track bees and collect honey?
Welcome, Ralph, from the USA. Awesome that you made it.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Thanks for your question.
And the best thing to do, Ralph, would be to plant some bee-friendly plants. And that's pretty difficult to say exactly what's a good plant in your area. But if you Google bee-friendly plants Missouri, I'm sure there'll be some site that tells you. I know things, like a lot of herbs like thyme and rosemary are favourites of bees all around the world. So do that.
Yeah, herbs are really popular with bees. And if you can get them foraging near your property or your land or house or whatever, then you could put a
lure
hive.
Yeah, you can. There's a thing called a swarm lure. If you actually seriously want to keep bees, it's like basically a 5 or 6 frame mini box, and we saw it. And then basically you put it with some frames, like the filing frames, and you put a bit of tissue with lemongrass oil inside it. And when it's swarming season, which will be probably your spring, which I'm sure you guys are looking forward to at the moment, because we've heard of lots of snow up in America at the moment, and a swarm will come in and they'll find it and they will move to that box. And then what you do then, once they've moved in, you move that to a bigger box and just keep going up.
Yeah.
But if you're starting beekeeping, Ralph, I would recommend joining a local bee club as well, just to get your hands in and have a look, and just see what you think of the bees and stuff.
I think that's a good idea, because it'll give you an opportunity, if you can, even meet a local beekeeper or something, so that you can get into the beehives without actually having the responsibility of managing it. So if you're going to lure them, then lemongrass oil. And a lot of people collect swarms and start their apiaries that way. So an apiary is obviously where you keep your bees, and you can build from a swarm.
Yeah.
And that's a seasonal thing. So you're probably looking about spring. So you'd want to get your boxes and everything ready over winter in preparation, rather than have a big panic.
Absolutely. And Ralph's thanked us for that. So thanks, Ralph. And if you want to, the other thing you can do is look on our website, which is kiwimana.co.nz or z.
.co.nz.
Yep. And if you Google Kiwimana, will probably be the first page.
Yeah.
And that's Mana, M-A-N-A. And bless you. And look up the look up the resources tab. There's a thing there that says Beekeeping 101, 7 steps to get started. So have a look at that. You can get some ideas on how to do it. And
awesome.
Fusion Tourism's asking, what causes honey to go to candy?
Yeah. Ralph also asked about collecting honey. Collecting honey is a process that when the bees first start their colony, the first thing they're going to start doing is drawing the wax comb. So once they get some wax comb, they will start, the next part of the process is raising brood. So that'll be their first priority, is to raise comb and start laying.
Yeah. So
the honey will come later on in the season when the honey flow starts. In New Zealand, we get spring, which is the breeding season, and then you've got summer, which is the honey collection, and the population still being built up. And then once you get to the end of summer, you've got heavy nectar flow. So in the second month of summer, you've got a lot of nectar flow, and then the third month before winter, then the population sort of changes. So you've got to keep an eye on those things. And we actually, to collect honey, once the colonies are fully established, we will collect honey before the end of January, and we use crush and strain for us.
Absolutely.
There is some information on there about that.
And Fusion Tourism.
Welcome.
Welcome, guys.
Welcome.
What causes honey to go to candy? We got heaps of honey from Tasmania. Oh, beautiful honey down there. While visiting there, and they're now back in Victoria, it's gone candy-like. And what you mean is, it's what's that called as Fusion Tourism, is what that means. It's called crystallized. And raw natural honey will crystallize. The honey molecules will actually go hard. And what you can do, this is what I would recommend, if the jar's a glass jar, you can put it into a bowl and put some hot water, almost boiling, but don't boil it. Just like get a kettle of boiling water, pour it into the bowl. Be very careful, don't spill it on yourself, and put the jar in the middle, and that honey will turn back into liquid form. It's just that's the best way to do it. And don't obviously pour the water into the honey. Leave the lid on, and it'll re-liquefy the honey, and that's called crystallized honey. Thanks for the props there.
Yeah, that's interesting, because if you don't keep the honey at the temperature during that summer season, it does get that cold. The temperature and the heat exchange is finished, so therefore everything becomes more solid. So we talked about this on the last Q&A, I think, that you can keep the honey in a place where there's a constant warmth. Some people modify old fridges and they put an electric blanket in there and they just keep that on a constant warm, so the whole jars, all the honey they store stays liquefied. So it's just an exchange in the temperature, and then the crystallization occurs, and it's a lot crunchier.
Yeah, absolutely. So that means you've got some good raw honey there, and we've know a few beekeepers in Tasmania, and we would love to visit there one day.
One day, Roger Phipps.
One day, because we hear the climate is very similar to New Zealand, so it'll be good for us.
Okay, well, thanks for your question, Ralph, and thanks for your question, Fusion Tourism. And
yeah, is there any more questions this week? Because otherwise we'll be wrapping up and going to get breakfast. And
which is always very important.
Exactly. So it's a very hot day here, and we're probably going to be doing some making bee boxes today, aren't we? That's what I'm doing.
My priority today is I've got 2 mated queens, and I'm going to put them into a 7 nuke box, 7 frame nuke box, because we're testing them for a queen rearer and we're seeing what the girls are like. It is a bit late in the season for doing that, but we've got plenty of resources for them to get them set up. So that's what I'll be working on today, to get them into a colony, because they're eating through the candy in the queen cage.
Yeah.
So I have left it a bit long, but I just haven't had a chance. So
yeah, that's the first priority. And thanks shout out to Gil for giving those to us. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's all good. Okay, well, we'll wrap it up, guys. Thanks for joining.
Are
Thanks,
there any
Fusion
more
Tourism.
questions?
Any more questions? Type /Q or call in.
And if you haven't got bees, go and support a beekeeper. Go and plant a bee-friendly garden with trees and flowers and fruit trees and everything like that. If you can't have bees, make your world, more welcoming.
Bee-friendly,
and
yeah.
The other thing is don't spray.
Don't spray.
Just weed manually and keep it clean.
Use these to get rid of weeds.
Yeah.
Hands.
And elbow grease. Always helpful.
And actually, I was just thinking, Ralph, if you look at our last podcast, 83, there's an article there about making a bee-friendly garden. So that's actually based in America. So you probably have some good American plants you can buy.
Yeah, I think that can be the first step, to getting them to your place. So when you achieve that, then you've got a better chance of luring them into a box. So yeah, I think that that's an option if you can do that. If you're in an apartment or anything like that, maybe just go and get a whole lot of potted colour and have that available, on an outdoor space. And
the other trick that I use is what I do is you go on a very hot day, go to a garden centre, have a look at the flowers. Which ones have got bees on them? So they're the ones to buy. And but in America, there's been some issues with a pesticide called neonicotinoid. So just make sure that the garden centre, you just say, have these been raised from neonicotinoid seeds? If they have, don't buy them.
Don't buy them because
they will kill the bees.
It's not healthy. I mean, there's so much controversy about chemicals, herbicides, pesticides, fungicides, and how they have these long-term effects on the environment and the bees, because whatever's out there, the bees will bring it back to the colony, and that's when they're most vulnerable. Tourism's asked another question about how do you rate the Manuka honey levels? Well, I just taste it and it's awesome. So that's how I rate it.
There's more of a scientific test.
Oh, well, we've got a book that can tell you all about that, actually.
We have.
And it's written by Cliff Van Eaton, and he says The Tale of an Extraordinary Honey. And here's the book.
Yeah, but there's a component in Manuka honey, which I
expect a front, but
it's not. It's not when it goes to.
Oh, okay.
When it travels through the internet, it turns around.
That's a trick for young players.
And there's a like an acid in the Manuka honey, and that is the measure they use. They measure that kind of honey, that component of the honey, and that's what they use. But there's some different methods, and there's it's very
look what
scientific.
Else is in there?
What?
From the author.
Stop hitting the mic. Oh, what does it say? Okay, all I can see is white.
White. Oh, he's actually written a little.
I know in this book, it says. I know in the other one it says, "Kiwi Mara are my favourite podcast." So the author wrote that to us. So thanks, Cliff.
It's in this one.
Yeah, I know.
Bananas. So we actually met Cliff, and we actually met Dr. Peter Molan.
Yeah.
And he was the guy who actually discovered it. And the tale of the honey is all in this book. It tells you all about it and the scientific research that backs up all these discoveries. It's got a bit of history for New Zealand and how we got bees here, which they are an introduced species. So and they being introduced, they just started working our Manuka trees, which is very common. Tea tree is also referred. We've got Karnuka and Manuka, and they are slightly different, but the properties are they are healing. So the UMF factor is called the unique Manuka factor, and that's how they judge what the health benefits are of the honey. And the honey, I've used it on burns, and it's totally healed my skin. And on my hand, I've been burnt when I was I had an accident in the apiary with my flamethrower, which I use for lighting my smoker, but it's completely healed, and it's just awesome. So
here's actually the scientific name for it. I can't read that. Dihydroxyacetone, commonly known as
dihydroxyacetone,
commonly known as DHA among beekeepers, and the amount of that in the honey is what determines the UMF factor of the Manuka honey. Fusion tourism. So that's how you judge that.
So, and the Karnuka is called arabinogalactan protein. So, and this book is excellent. We've got it at a really good price. If you're interested, it's in our online shop at kiwimana.co.nz, and just have a look at our shop, and we have got some copies left. So
and the good thing about it is it's not really a beekeeper's book. It's a bit like a honey book. So it's not like about how to be a beekeeper kind of thing.
It's a great book for that. If that'll just give you some more insight as to how it was discovered. And unfortunately, Peter has passed away last year, which is very sad. But his legacy is this great discovery, and Cliff has really honoured him in this book, sharing his story and about New Zealand honey and the history. So enjoy. If you want to get that, we have it.
Absolutely. We've also got a talk of Peter's that we videoed when we met him, and you can have a look at that too. He talks about his work in the discovering of the Manuka factor. So
Yeah.
have a check that out. It's pretty good.
What do you know the details of that? Is it a podcast or?
It's on YouTube.
Okay, so it's available to you guys. So if you want to have a look at that, it's out there.
It's out there. Anyway, thanks everyone. Thanks Fusion Tourism. Thanks Ralph, and thanks Stephanie for joining us. We appreciate everyone joining this week. And
yes, we recommend some honey for you and some Manuka honey for that healing, and a wonderful tool in the whole skin, you know, keeping your skin healthy and inside, and honey's used to help with sleep. Are a bit have trouble sleeping, have a tablespoon of honey before they go to bed, and it helps them, you know, sleep.
Yep, Fusion Tourism. Yes, we do ship to Australia.
Yeah, we've actually sold a couple of books already to Australia.
And we've sold suits and stuff. So, yeah, we do.
We've sold some of our Kiwi Breeze suits, which are a mesh layered suit, where you can still feel the air rather than when the cotton suits, they sort of trap all the heat in. We have these mesh suits called the Kiwi Breeze, and they just allow the airflow rather than keeping you in a sauna suit, which is what I call my cotton suit.
Yeah, and last Monday we actually released a podcast with a commercial beekeeper in Canberra in Australia.
Victor Croker, who is, you know, on his journey with his partner, his business partner, and that might be of interest to you.
Yep, absolutely.
Any more questions, guys?
Oh, yeah, let's see if we answered that one. If any more questions, or it's breakfast time here. Well, thanks everyone for joining, and we appreciate you calling, coming in, and we'll see you next week. Banana greetings, everyone.
Yes, and go bananas in your apiary and have fun, and yeah, check your nectar flow. And thanks, Fusion Tourism. Have a great day over there, and yeah.
Yep, and that's us signing off. So see you guys later.
See ya.